This, though, is my first of the day. Christ, if you were in my place when I looked at that poor kid, you'd have done the same."
Stark frowned. He'd never known Sanders to be so uneasy. He was always a confident man when on a mission. Carefully, he stepped over the leafy surroundings, lifted the crime scene tape, and ducked his head under the entrance to the makeshift tent. 2 identification officers, dressed in their white all-in-one suits, acknowledged him with a sharp nod. Stark stared at the victim. She'd been a pretty girl. There was no mistaking that. Her face was untouched, her cloudy eyes wide open, staring blankly. Her blue veins were prominent against her translucent skin, and her full lips were bloodless. She was on her side, her knees muddy. He stared at her hands. They were covered in blood. So she had tried to stop herself from bleeding to death. He always visualised a murdered victim's last move, but it was painful for him because this girl was so young. He looked around and then saw the short trail of blood smears on the autumn leaves. She hadn't crawled too far before she died, no doubt because she had lost a considerable amount of blood in a short space of time. What did this say about her killer, he wondered? Was the killer strong? He bent down and peered at the gash across her throat. The skin had already peeled back, revealing the depth of the wound. Whoever had cut the girl was certainly fast and strong. The gash was made by a single movement, not a jagged cut. He stood up and chewed his bottom lip. The most disturbing thing about this crime scene was that the girl was in her school uniform. She wasn't a poor kid either. Taken as a whole, the girl's uniform was immaculate. Her socks were brilliant white, her skirt appeared brand new, and her blazer didn't even have any shiny iron creases. Stark clocked the make of the girl's school bag. Mulberry, an expensive leather design. Carefully, he stepped away from the tent and made his way back to Sanders.
"She was a pretty thing from a good home. And her name? Alice Montgomery Blythe. Double-barrelled name. Not a private school uniform, so I'm guessing Cooper's school?"
Sanders lit up another cigarette and nodded.
"Your silence, Lewis, and the fact that you've shoved another cancer stick in your mouth tells me you have something or someone on your mind."
Rubbing the back of his neck, Sanders answered flatly,
"Jacob's first thought was Hudson Mason."
Stark removed his gloves and nodded.
"Remember the Mason family? The mother, father and aunt all murdered. And, of course, we mustn't forget the brutal killing of Dr Guy Reeves, the psychiatrist as well. How could I forget? That house of horrors. And the culprits. The mother Dion Mason and that grotesque-featured man who was found dead in his car. He didn't even have the guts to face trial. So, what's all of that got to do with this victim?"
He pointed over his shoulder.
"Harley and Hudson Mason go to the same school that our victim had. I don't think it's anything to do with the Mason kids myself, but Jacob is still haunted by the Mason boy. I don't know if you remember, but the kids were in a study called the Gemini Gene study. It was looking at higher-functioning psychopaths. That's not to say the twins are psychopaths," said Sanders, making it clear. "Anyway, after all the murders, which, by the way, Harley and Hudson were not guilty of, the study was stopped. Jacob is still not over it all."
Stark unzipped his white all-in-one suit.
"Sounds to me like you're trying to convince yourself." "Oh, I dunno. Maybe their shocking story still resides in my brain. Like Jacob, I don't think I will ever stop thinking about it. That doesn't mean I think the twins are dangerous. Yeah, a little odd, but what kid wouldn't be, having lived through that nightmare?"
Stark shrugged his shoulders.
"We all have that one case that never leaves us. You have to admit, though, Josh, they were a fucking sordid and sick family. The poor kid's real father, who it turned out was that monster Niall Seymour, was a proper psychopath. Worse than any movie. I mean, you couldn't make that up."
Stark looked down and circled his foot, parting the golden leaves.
"I had to deal with a case many moons ago similar to your Mason case. What haunts me still was not so much about a clinical trial, but a family called Taven. A very handsome man, and she an incredibly beautiful woman. I remember her hair was long with thick wavy..."